Summary of The Honest Truth About Dishonesty, How We Lie to Everyone Especially Ourselves by Dan Ariely. Introduction. The Honest Truth About Dishonesty by Dan Ariely delves into the complex nature of human dishonesty and the factors that influence our propensity to cheat. Ariely, a behavioral economist, uses a series of experiments and studies to reveal the various ways people deceive themselves and others. Ariely begins by challenging the common belief that only a few bad apples are responsible for dishonest behavior. Instead, he argues that dishonesty is a widespread phenomenon influenced by numerous factors, including psychological, social, and environmental elements. Through his research, Ariely demonstrates that most people lie and cheat to some extent, but only within limits that allow them to maintain a self-image of being honest individuals. One of the key concepts Ariely introduces is the fudge factor theory, which suggests that people rationalize their dishonest actions to a degree that doesn't force them to see themselves as fundamentally dishonest. This self-deception allows individuals to benefit from dishonesty while still feeling good about themselves. Ariely also explores the impact of external factors on dishonest behavior. For example, he finds that people are more likely to cheat when they see others doing so, when they are distanced from the consequences of their actions, or when they can justify their behavior in some way. He also examines how reminders of moral codes, like signing an honor code, can reduce dishonest behavior. Chapter 1: Understanding Dishonesty, a Complex Human Behavior. Ariely begins by challenging the notion that dishonesty is limited to a few bad apples. Instead, he argues that most people engage in small acts of dishonesty, which they rationalize to maintain a positive self-image. This concept is central to his fudge factor theory, which suggests that people cheat just enough to benefit but not so much that they feel like bad individuals. Example: the Matrix experiment. One of the most compelling experiments Ariely describes is the Matrix experiment. In this study, participants were given a sheet of paper with a series of simple math problems. They were instructed to solve as many as they could within a limited time and then report the number of problems they solved correctly. The twist was that participants were allowed to shred their answer sheets before reporting their scores, making it easy to lie about their performance. The results were fascinating. On average, participants reported solving more problems than they actually did. However, the extent of the dishonesty was relatively small. Most people cheated just a little bit, enough to gain a slight advantage but not so much that it would make them feel like outright liars. The role of social influence. Ariely also explores how social context influences dishonest behavior. In another variation of the Matrix experiment, he introduced a confederate, an actor who was part of the experiment, who blatantly cheated by quickly solving all the problems and claiming the maximum reward. When participants saw someone else cheating without consequences, they were more likely to cheat themselves. This demonstrates how seeing others engage in dishonest behavior can lower our own moral standards. Self-deception and rationalization. A key aspect of Ariely's findings is the role of self-deception. People often rationalize their dishonest actions to align with their self-perception as honest individuals. For instance, someone might justify taking office supplies from work by thinking, "The company won't miss these, and I need them more." This rationalization allows them to benefit from the dishonest act without feeling guilty. Moral reminders. Interestingly, Ariely found that simple reminders of moral standards can significantly reduce dishonest behavior. In one experiment, participants were asked to sign an honor code before taking a test. Those who signed the honor code were much less likely to cheat compared to those who didn't. This suggests that bringing ethical considerations to the forefront of people's minds can curb dishonest tendencies. Through these experiments and examples, Ariely paints a nuanced picture of dishonesty. He shows that while most people are not outright liars, they do engage in small acts of dishonesty that they can easily justify. Understanding these behaviors and the factors that influence them can help us create environments that promote honesty and reduce cheating. Ariely's work is a fascinating exploration of human behavior, revealing that dishonesty is not just about a few bad individuals but a complex interplay of psychological and social factors. By understanding these dynamics, we can better address and mitigate dishonest behavior in various aspects of life. Chapter 2, The Fudge Factor: How We Bend the Rules. Ariely's fudge factor theory posits that people have a certain threshold for dishonesty. They cheat, but only to the extent that they can still feel good about themselves. This self-deception allows them to reap the benefits of dishonest behavior without feeling like they are fundamentally dishonest individuals. Example: the golf experiment. One of the real-world examples Ariely uses to illustrate the fudge factor is the golf experiment. In this study, participants were asked to imagine they were playing a round of golf. They were given scenarios where they could improve their score by moving the ball slightly. The key was how they moved the ball, with their club, with their foot, or by picking it up and placing it in a better position. The results showed that participants were more likely to move the ball with their club or foot rather than picking it up and placing it. This subtle form of cheating allowed them to improve their score while still feeling like they were playing within the rules. Moving the ball with the club or foot felt less like outright cheating and more like bending the rules, which fit within their fudge factor. The role of rationalization. Ariely explains that rationalization plays a crucial role in the fudge factor. People justify their small acts of dishonesty by telling themselves stories that make their actions seem acceptable. For example, someone might justify taking a few office supplies home by thinking, "I work hard and deserve this," or "the company has plenty of supplies, they won't miss these." This rationalization process allows individuals to cheat a little without feeling guilty. They create a narrative that aligns their actions with their self-perception as honest people, thus maintaining their moral self-image. The impact of distance. Another interesting aspect of the fudge factor is the impact of distance from the dishonest act. Ariely found that people are more likely to cheat when they are distanced from the consequences of their actions. For instance, in one experiment, participants were more likely to take extra tokens, which could later be exchanged for money, than to take extra cash directly. The tokens created a psychological distance from the act of stealing money, making it easier for participants to rationalize their behavior. The fudge factor theory reveals that dishonesty is not a black and white issue but a spectrum where people balance their desire to benefit from cheating with their need to maintain a positive self-image. By understanding the mechanisms of rationalization and the factors that influence the fudge factor, we can better address and mitigate dishonest behavior. Ariely's insights into the fudge factor provide a nuanced understanding of how and why people bend the rules. This knowledge can help us create environments that reduce the temptation to cheat and promote more ethical behavior. Chapter 3, Environmental Influences on Dishonest Behavior. Ariely's research shows that the environment we are in can subtly nudge us towards dishonest actions. These influences can be social, physical, or even psychological, and they often operate without our conscious awareness. Example: the 10 Commandments experiment. One of the most striking experiments Ariely describes is the 10 Commandments experiment. In this study, participants were asked to recall as many of the 10 Commandments as they could before taking a test where they had the opportunity to cheat. The results were fascinating. Those who were asked to recall the 10 Commandments, regardless of how many they could remember, were significantly less likely to cheat compared to those who were not given this task. This experiment highlights how moral reminders in our environment can reduce dishonest behavior. By simply thinking about ethical standards, participants were less inclined to cheat, demonstrating the powerful influence of moral cues in our surroundings. The impact of observing others. Ariely also explores how observing the behavior of others can influence our own honesty. In another experiment, participants were more likely to cheat when they saw someone else cheating without facing any consequences. This phenomenon, known as social proof, suggests that we often look to others to determine what is acceptable behavior. If we see others engaging in dishonest actions, we are more likely to follow suit. The role of physical distance. Physical distance from the dishonest act can also play a crucial role. Ariely found that people are more likely to cheat when there is a greater distance between them and the consequences of their actions. For example, in one experiment, participants were more likely to take extra tokens, which could later be exchanged for money, than to take extra cash directly. The tokens created a psychological distance from the act of stealing money, making it easier for participants to rationalize their behavior. The influence of anonymity. Anonymity is another environmental factor that can increase dishonest behavior. When people feel anonymous, they are more likely to cheat because they believe they are less likely to be caught. Ariely's experiments showed that participants were more likely to cheat when their actions were not directly observed or when they felt their identity was concealed. Ariely's work on environmental influences reveals that dishonesty is not just a matter of individual morality but is also shaped by the context in which we find ourselves. By understanding how our surroundings affect our behavior, we can design environments that promote honesty and reduce the temptation to cheat. These insights are particularly valuable for creating ethical workplaces, schools, and communities. Simple changes, such as incorporating moral reminders, reducing anonymity, and fostering a culture of honesty, can significantly impact the level of dishonest behavior. Chapter 4: The Role of Authority and Incentives in Promoting Dishonesty. Ariely's research shows that authority figures and the incentives they create can either encourage or discourage dishonest behavior. This influence can be subtle, often operating below the level of conscious awareness. Example: the Enron scandal. One of the most notorious real-world examples of authority and incentives promoting dishonesty is the Enron scandal. Enron, once a highly successful energy company, collapsed in 2001 due to widespread corporate fraud. The company's executives created a culture where aggressive financial targets were rewarded, and employees were incentivized to meet these targets by any means necessary, including dishonest practices. The authority figures at Enron, including top executives, set unrealistic performance goals and offered substantial bonuses for meeting them. This created a powerful incentive for employees to engage in fraudulent activities, such as manipulating financial statements and hiding debt. The pressure from authority figures and the lure of financial rewards led to a widespread culture of dishonesty that ultimately brought the company down. The impact of authority figures. Ariely's experiments also highlight how authority figures can influence dishonest behavior. In one study, participants were more likely to cheat when they believed an authority figure condoned or encouraged the behavior. For example, if a supervisor hinted that cutting corners was acceptable to achieve a goal, employees were more likely to engage in dishonest actions. This demonstrates that authority figures play a crucial role in setting ethical standards within an organization. When leaders model or implicitly endorse dishonest behavior, it can trickle down through the ranks, leading to a culture where dishonesty becomes normalized. The role of incentives. Incentives are another powerful factor that can promote dishonesty. Ariely found that the structure of incentives can significantly impact whether people choose to cheat. For instance, in one experiment, participants were given a task where they could earn money based on their performance. When the rewards were high and the likelihood of being caught was low, participants were more likely to cheat. However, Ariely also discovered that not all incentives promote dishonesty. When incentives are aligned with ethical behavior and transparency, they can encourage honesty. For example, offering rewards for accurate reporting rather than just high performance can reduce the temptation to cheat. Ariely's work on the role of authority and incentives reveals that dishonest behavior is often influenced by the environment created by leaders and the rewards they offer. By understanding these dynamics, organizations can design systems that promote ethical behavior and reduce the temptation to cheat. Creating a culture of honesty requires leaders to model ethical behavior and design incentives that align with transparency and integrity. This approach can help mitigate the influence of authority and incentives in promoting dishonesty. Chapter 5: Self-Deception and Ethical Blind Spots. Ariely's research shows that self-deception is a powerful mechanism that enables people to rationalize their dishonest actions. Ethical blind spots refer to the areas where our moral vision is obscured, leading us to overlook or justify unethical behavior. Example: the cheating experiment. One of the experiments Ariely describes involves a simple math test where participants could earn money based on the number of problems they solved correctly. After completing the test, participants were asked to self-report their scores and shred their answer sheets, making it easy to lie about their performance. Interestingly, many participants cheated by inflating their scores, but only by a small margin. This small-scale cheating allowed them to benefit financially while still perceiving themselves as honest individuals. They rationalized their behavior by thinking, "It's just a little lie, it doesn't really hurt anyone." This experiment highlights how self-deception works. People convince themselves that their dishonest actions are not significant enough to impact their self-image. They create narratives that justify their behavior, allowing them to maintain a sense of integrity. The role of ethical blind spots. Ethical blind spots are areas where our moral judgment is compromised, often without our awareness. Ariely explains that these blind spots can be influenced by various factors, such as conflicts of interest, social norms, and cognitive biases. For example, in one study, participants were more likely to cheat when they were part of a group that benefited from their dishonesty. This group dynamic created an ethical blind spot, where individuals felt less responsible for their actions because the benefits were shared among the group. They rationalized their behavior by thinking, "Everyone else is doing it, so it must be okay." The impact of conflicts of interest. Conflicts of interest can also create ethical blind spots. Ariely discusses how professionals, such as doctors or financial advisors, might unconsciously favor decisions that benefit them financially, even if those decisions are not in the best interest of their clients. This bias is often not deliberate but rather a result of self-deception, where individuals convince themselves that their actions are justified. Ariely's exploration of self-deception and ethical blind spots reveals that dishonesty is often a result of complex psychological processes. People deceive themselves to maintain a positive self-image, creating narratives that justify their actions. Ethical blind spots further obscure moral judgment, leading individuals to overlook or rationalize unethical behavior. Understanding these mechanisms can help us recognize and address our own blind spots, promoting more ethical behavior in both personal and professional contexts. By being aware of the factors that influence self-deception, we can take steps to mitigate their impact and foster a culture of honesty and integrity. Chapter 6: Preventing Dishonesty: Practical Strategies and Ethical Interventions. Preventing dishonesty is a complex but achievable goal, one that involves targeted strategies and a deep understanding of human behavior. Effective strategies for minimizing dishonesty can be implemented across various settings, ranging from educational institutions to corporate environments and public policy. One potent strategy is to harness the power of education. Educating individuals about the consequences of dishonesty and the psychological mechanisms that drive it can foster greater self-awareness. When people understand how their minds work, they are better equipped to resist the temptation to cheat. For instance, courses on ethics and behavioral psychology can be integrated into school curricula and professional training programs. By raising awareness early on, it's possible to instill a stronger moral compass that guides decisions throughout life. Transparency is another crucial factor in promoting ethical behavior. When processes and outcomes are transparent, there's a higher likelihood of accountability, deterring people from acting dishonestly. In corporate settings, clear and open communication about policies, expectations, and the consequences of unethical behavior can establish a culture of integrity. Regular audits, transparent reporting mechanisms, and a clear code of ethics are practical tools that businesses can employ to maintain high ethical standards. Policy implications and reforms also play a significant role in curbing dishonesty. Policymakers can design regulations that reduce opportunities for dishonest behavior and incentivize honesty. For example, simplifying tax codes and reducing loopholes can minimize tax evasion. Anti-corruption measures, such as stringent enforcement of laws, whistleblower protections, and the establishment of independent anti-corruption bodies, can also be effective. In addition to these strategies, creating an environment that inherently promotes honesty is essential. This can involve nurturing a culture that values and rewards truthfulness, integrity, and fairness. Encouraging open dialogue and ensuring that there are safe channels for reporting unethical behavior can help detect and mitigate dishonesty before it escalates. Behavioral interventions can also be effective. Research shows that simple changes, such as signing an honesty pledge at the beginning of a form rather than at the end, can significantly reduce dishonest reporting. Similarly, reminders of moral standards, like displaying honor codes or ethical reminders in prominent places, can nudge individuals towards honest behavior. Preventing dishonesty requires a multifaceted approach, combining education, transparency, policy reforms, and behavioral insights. By implementing these strategies, it is possible to create environments where honesty is the norm and dishonesty is the exception. This collective effort can contribute significantly to building a more ethical and trustworthy society. Chapter 7 Conclusion. Ariely begins by reiterating that dishonesty is not limited to a few bad apples but is a widespread phenomenon. Most people engage in small acts of dishonesty, which they rationalize to maintain a positive self-image. This self-deception allows individuals to benefit from dishonest actions without feeling like they are fundamentally dishonest. Example: the slippery slope of dishonesty. Ariely uses the metaphor of a slippery slope to describe how small acts of dishonesty can escalate over time. He explains that once people start bending the rules, it becomes easier to justify increasingly larger dishonest actions. This gradual progression can lead to significant ethical breaches. For instance, consider the case of accounting fraud in corporations. It often starts with minor adjustments to financial statements to meet targets. Over time, these small adjustments can snowball into major fraudulent activities, as individuals become desensitized to their dishonest behavior and find it easier to justify larger deceptions. The Enron scandal is a prime example of how small acts of dishonesty can escalate into massive fraud, leading to the company's collapse and severe consequences for employees and investors. The importance of ethical reminders. Ariely emphasizes the importance of ethical reminders in curbing dishonest behavior. He suggests that simple interventions, such as signing an honor code or being reminded of moral standards, can significantly reduce the likelihood of cheating. These reminders bring ethical considerations to the forefront of people's minds, making them less likely to engage in dishonest actions. Creating ethical environments. Ariely also discusses the role of environmental design in promoting honesty. He argues that organizations and institutions can create environments that discourage dishonesty by implementing clear ethical guidelines, reducing opportunities for cheating, and fostering a culture of transparency and accountability. For example, companies can design their incentive structures to reward ethical behavior rather than just high performance. By aligning incentives with ethical conduct, organizations can reduce the temptation to cheat and promote a culture of integrity. In summary, Ariely's conclusion underscores that dishonesty is a multifaceted issue influenced by various factors. By understanding the psychological mechanisms behind dishonesty and the environmental influences that shape our behavior, we can take proactive steps to foster more ethical conduct. Ariely's insights offer practical strategies for individuals and organizations to create environments that promote honesty and reduce the temptation to cheat. His work serves as a reminder that while dishonesty is a common human trait, it is possible to design systems and interventions that encourage ethical behavior and help us navigate the complexities of moral decision-making. Thank you for listening. I hope this content is useful to you. If you like this kind of content, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel to support our team.